Alright, what's going on guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. 2 weeks ago we hopped back on NHL 17 for the first time in a long time and compared current NHL stars to what they were rated back on NHL 17. The video did end up doing really well, so in this one we will be doing the opposite and looking at NHLers who were expected to be stars in NHL 17 but kind of fell off in real life. For those who didn't see last week's video, this one is going to follow the same formula. On NHL 17 we will look at players with high potentials and simulate up to the beginning of the 2020-21 NHL season and compare where they are in September of 2020 on NHL 17 versus what they are on NHL 21. I'm not too sure if that made too much sense, but I think once you see the video you'll start to get it. Anyway, with all this being said, let's get into the first player we will be comparing, and that is Shayne Gostisbehere of the Philadelphia Flyers. Shayne Gostisbehere heading into NHL 17/the 2016-17 NHL season had some very high expectations. In 64 NHL games the year before, he had 17 goals and 29 assists for 46 points and went on an incredible late season point streak that ended up helping the Flyers punch their ticket to the 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs. With that, EA decided to have Shayne Gostisbehere at an 86 overall with low elite potential. For the time, the rating was pretty solid, but looking at today and where he is at now in his career, it's safe to say things haven't really panned out. Today on NHL 21, he is at an 83 overall with exact top 4 potential. Ghost I wouldn't call a bad player by any means, but after it seemed like the Flyers found an elite defenseman, Gostisbehere has struggled to produce, and I think having him at an 83 on NHL 21 is pretty fair. For the past few years, he has been in and out of the Flyers lineup, and he may be on his way out of Philly altogether soon for all we know. Anyway, with all this being said, let's see what he was projected to be by now on NHL 17. So after resimulating the 2016-17 NHL season, the Philadelphia Flyers, unlike real life, finished 12th in the league and made the playoffs. In them, they fell in the first round to the New York Islanders in 6 games. Shayne Gostisbehere's sophomore season was a good one that saw him put up 14 goals and 39 assists for 53 points in the regular season. In the 6-game playoff run, he added a goal and an assist for 2 points and increased up to an 87 overall. In the offseason, he re-signed with Philly on a 3-year deal worth $4.6 million per year. Year number 2 sees the Flyers struggle as they finish 21st in the NHL and miss out on the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like the team, Shayne Gostisbehere took a step back, and this season saw him finish with 9 goals and 31 assists for 40 points. Not a terrible season, but not as good as his last one, and we do see him drop back to an 86 overall. The Flyers bounce back big time in year number 3 as they finish 5th in the league. Sadly, the playoffs don't see them go on a deep run once again though, as the New York Rangers took care of them in 7 games. Shayne Gostisbehere had another solid season as he put up 4 goals and 38 assists for 42 points and in the playoffs added 2 assists. With all this, he went back up to an 87 overall as we head into the final year of this simulation. The Flyers, like real life, struggled to make the playoffs in back-to-back years once again as they fell to 19th in the league. The down year for the Flyers also translated to Shayne Gostisbehere as he had just 10 goals and 26 assists for 36 points on the year. He went back down to an 86 overall, and in the offseason re-signed on another 3-year deal, this one worth $5.3 million per year. So in September of 2020 on NHL 17, Shayne Gostisbehere is sitting at an 86 overall with exact elite potential, and his role is a top 4 defenseman. He's at the same overall at the beginning of the sim as he was, but it is still a higher projection than what he turned out to be on NHL 21, where he is an 83 overall with exact top 4 potential. Not the biggest gap, but that may be different with the next player we will be looking at, and that is Ryan Johansen of the Nashville Predators. Ryan Johansen, heading into the 2016-17 NHL season, was still a pretty newly acquired Nashville Predator as he was traded for Seth Jones that same year in January of 2016. Heading into his first full NHL season with the Nashville Predators, he was expected to be their guy up the middle after 3 straight impressive regular seasons in Columbus. In the 2013-14 season, he had 63 points, 14-15 a career-high 71, and in 15-16 a very respectable 60-point campaign between the two teams. With all of this hype around him, the fact that he was a 4th overall pick, and a few good seasons to back this up, EA gave Ryan Johansen an 89 overall rating with medium elite potential. He is a center playmaker, and his role on NHL 17 is listed as a first-line forward. Today on NHL 21, after struggling to fit the role that he was supposed to fill in Nashville, he is rated as an 83 overall with exact top 6 potential. Now let's hop back onto NHL 17 and see how EA predicted Johansen's career up until the current day. Nashville has a massive season, finishing second in the NHL and finishing first in the Western Conference. Come the playoffs, they shit the bed and are taken out in 5 games by the Winnipeg Jets. Ryan Johansen had a good season with 26 goals and 40 assists for 65 points in the regular season. Probably could have been more, but as you can see, Nashville traded for Henrik Zetterberg, who is the same position and also a high overall in this game, so he probably took away from Johansen's production a little bit. Anyway, in the playoffs, Johansen had quite the magic act and made himself disappear as he was nothing but a -1. He remains an 89 overall and in the offseason re-signed with the Preds on a 3-year deal worth $6.4 million per year. The Predators fell off a cliff in year 2 as they dropped all the way to 27th in the league. This is kinda crazy as in real life that year Nashville won the President's Trophy and were Cup contenders, and the team that was actually terrible that year in real life won the Cup in this sim. Despite how bad the season was for Nashville, Ryan Johansen managed to still put up a pretty solid year that saw him finish with 18 goals and 35 assists for 53 points. He stays put at an 89 overall once again, and hopefully Zetterberg retires or something cause he's kinda ruining the sim for Johansen in my opinion. The Predators struggled once again as they fell to 20th in the NHL and missed the playoffs again. Speaking of the playoffs, the sim engine did correctly get the St. Louis Blues winning the Cup in 2019. Despite another poor season from the Predators though, Ryan Johansen did have a good year individually as he had 19 goals and 56 assists for 75 points. He once again stayed an 89 overall as we head into the final year of this simulation. The struggles continued as the Nashville Predators for the 3rd straight season sucked and missed out on the playoffs. Johansen didn't keep pace with last season but still had an okay year with 12 goals and 46 assists for 58 points on the year. In the offseason, he re-signed with the Predators and stayed at an 89 overall, which brings us to September 2020 and the end of the simulation. So in September of 2020 on NHL 17, Ryan Johansen is an 89 overall center playmaker with exact elite potential with the role of a first-line forward. Like Gostisbehere, he is also at the same overall at the end of the sim as he was at the beginning, but still it doesn't come too close to what he is on NHL 21, where he is an 83 overall center playmaker with exact elite potential and the role of a second line forward. Nothing crazy in this sim either, but I got a feeling that's going to change in the next one with former Montreal Canadian Alex Galchenyuk. 3rd overall pick back in 2012, Alex Galchenyuk heading into the 2016-17 season was still expected to be a future stud for the Montreal Canadiens. Up until this point, he had 4 seasons in the NHL, and in each season he was putting up more and more points. His latest season heading into NHL 17 saw him finish with 30 goals and 26 assists for 56 points. With this, EA had the center playmaker as an 87 overall with medium elite potential. Sadly, things haven't gone as expected for Galch as he today in real life has bounced around the league and has fallen off a bit. Currently on NHL 21, he is rated at a 79 overall with medium top 9 potential. There's still time for him to turn things around in real life, and speaking of turning things around, let's turn back to NHL 17 and see what EA had in store for Alex Galchenyuk. The Habs failed to make the playoffs in year number 1 and hit close to rock bottom as they finished second to last in the league. Alex Galchenyuk, while being on a pretty awful team, still had a pretty solid season with 15 goals and 39 assists for 54 points on the year. This was good enough to see him jump up to a 90 overall, and in the offseason re-signed with the Habs on a 4-year deal worth $6.7 million per year. Montreal bounced back in year number 2, and in the resim of the 2017-18 season, the Habs finished 13th in the NHL and made it back to the playoffs where they fell to the New Jersey Devils in the second round. Shea Weber and Alex Galchenyuk co-led the team in points with 66 each. Galchenyuk threw 22 goals and 44 assists, and in the playoffs he was close to a point per game with 9 points in 10 games. With all this, he remains a 90 overall. The Canadiens were dominant in year number 3 of the sim as they finished first in the Eastern Conference and second in the league. Sadly, that dominance didn't translate to the playoffs as the Leafs took them out in 7 games in the first round. Galchenyuk had a similar season to his prior one with 19 goals and 46 assists for 65 points on the year. This time in the playoffs, he struggled to consistently put up points and in 7 games had just a goal and an assist. He again stays at a 90 overall as we head into the final year of this simulation. The Habs for the second straight season finished second in the league and once again could not get out of the first round of the playoffs as they fell to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Philadelphia Flyers in 7 games. Alex Galchenyuk had a big season with 20 goals and 52 assists for 72 points in the regular season, which was another new career high for him. In the disappointing playoffs, he had an additional 5 assists, and by the time of September of 2020, he is sitting at a 90 overall. So in September of 2020 on NHL 17, Alexander Galchenyuk is still a Montreal Canadian and is a 90 overall with medium elite potential, meaning he still possibly can grow in overall. At this time on NHL 21, Alexander Galchenyuk as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs is sitting at a 79 overall with medium top 9 potential. Over the past few seasons, his value has decreased quite a bit, and honestly it is sad to see. I don't want this video to come off as me shitting on Galchenyuk or any of these other players. I just thought this would be cool to look at and basically do the opposite of what we did for the last video. Anyway, this is the end of this one, and with that, I do want to thank you guys so much for the support and for watching this video. We are closing in on 10,000 subscribers, which is a milestone I never could have imagined that I would ever hit. Thank you guys so much for just everything over the years. Expect more content in the future and probably a 10K video. Like always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.